Good morning, Deb. I started the recording for us so that we can throw this up on YouTube for posterity and anybody who isn't able to join us today. Um, Hi, I'm Chandra Pinnock. I work with Deb Fitzgibbons at OTAP and RSOI, and we really want to bring to you all the resources that you may or may not know about and the details about how to use them. And we do have quite a few people here to talk to you today. So I'm kind of excited about that. And I'm just going to go ahead and introduce them again for the recording. We have Brian Sacre here. He is from ATI. Brian, you want to tell us what ATI stands for?
Hello, everyone. ATI stands for Access Technologies Incorporated, a tiny little nonprofit out of Salem, but they function as the state's overarching AT Act program.
Excellent. And then we have Carrie Luce, Noelle Berkey, and Cynthia Castaneda. I'm going to butcher that. I apologize. Um, and they are from Community Vision. And you guys are located where? Up in the Portland area? Is
Yep,
that
you're in
correct?
Southeast Portland. Yep, yep. But we take
Okay.
calls, emails from all over the state.
Amazing. Okay, so I am going to tell you guys a little bit about the OTAP loan library and how it functions. And then we're going to have Brian tell you about our state AT program. And then Carrie, Noel, and Cynthia are going to bring us home with Community Vision. I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of slides that I have put together.
And there is going to be an opportunity, of course, for question and answers at the end, but I think all of our presenters are open to questions during their presentations. So please feel free to unmute yourself. Raise your hand, please, so we can just make sure that we acknowledge you, or type in the chat box. You're the most important piece here. Let us know what questions you have.
Okay. And I will probably not be able to see you while I'm doing this. So yes, please just interrupt me. Let's see. Okay, can you see my screen? Are you
Yes.
able? Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
fabulous. Okay. The OTAP Loan Library. And again, my name is Chandra Pinnock. I'm the Accessible Technology and Learning Specialist with the Oregon Technology Access Program. I also work with RSOI with Deb. So I'm going to give you an overview of the kind of who, what, why, how of the OTAP library. First, we are funded through a grant from the Oregon Department of Education. We serve all children with disabilities, birth to 21 across the entire state. That does not just mean kids with IEPs. If you call me up, I'm not going to ask for your 504. If a child needs something, call us, email us, and we will help you. And we serve anyone who serves those populations. So that means parents, therapists, teachers, older siblings that take care of them, grandparents, anyone who helps those kids can come to us and check out an item. We have short-term 45-day loans, and we have assistive technology. As Deb mentioned previously, we do not carry like standers and those sorts of things, but we have switches and AAC devices, and we have mounts, and oh my gosh, so many things. I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But assistive technology, and by that, for anyone who is not familiar with the definition, is, and I'm paraphrasing, anything that helps increase function based on an individual person's needs. We also have in the library what would be considered accessible technology. Those things designed to serve great numbers of people based on the principles of universal design. And some of those are apps like the Read and Write app, for instance. Those can be used by anybody to help them with many different things. And then, as I mentioned, we have AAC. So we send out iPads with AAC, augmentative and alternative communication apps on them, preloaded with a nice rough case so that, you know, if the kiddo drops it, I don't have to replace it, maybe. We are housed at the Douglas Education Service District in Roseburg, Oregon. Our physical inventory is there, as well as our digital inventory. It's inside the Roseburg Public Library website, which I will show you how to get there and how to see our catalog. All of the items I ship out at OTAP's expense, and then the borrower is responsible for the return. So you can drive it and drop it off at my desk if you'd like, or you can ship it or give it to someone to drop off, as long as I get it back. I really like getting them back. I ship to homes, schools, clinics, all over the state. And why do we do this? We do this as a service to parents and schools and districts because, frankly, this stuff, it can cost a lot of money to keep an entire library of stuff just at the ready. Nobody wants to have to buy something that is going to end up not being the thing that the kiddo needs. And it helps gather data for those evaluations if they need one. We have kiddos that need evaluations for AAC, and they have to trial 3 devices before the insurance will, you know, say, okay, we'll pay for it. Schools don't want to have to pay for 3 different apps just in case. So I load those 3 apps, send it out to you, and you can do what you need to do with it. And this reduced costs and saves money, and literally everybody loves that. So that's why we're here. But how do we do it? And this is the important part where we reach out to you, our audience. We have partnerships and want partnerships with you to identify what it is that you need, because that's why we're here, is to provide you with what you need. So at any time, please email me if you think there's something that we need to add to our library, something that you've been dying to get your hands on, let us know. We have over 50 unique switches. We have a couple of eye gaze devices. We have all the major AAC apps. We have lots of therapeutic apps. And as I mentioned, we have some accessible technology apps like the Read and Write. And we have over 100 other AT items. You can get to our catalog through a couple of ways. First, I have a newsletter that I update periodically. It's called the OTAP Loan Library News Flash, and I send it out whenever I update it. I just updated this one, so here is the bit.ly link, and the direct link is in these slides. And you can see that there is a link to the library catalog. And I've also included a link here for the equipment loan agreement form. If you just want that, fill it out and send it to me. We try to keep it brief and simple. Here's the direct link to the catalog, as well as a bit.ly link, just to make it easy. If you click on this OTAP catalog link, it is going to go directly to the Roseburg Public Library OTAP list. If you happen across the Roseburg Library website, you can go to the search bar, put in OTAP, and it will bring up this same list. This is just a little screenshot of what it looks like. And that's pretty much it. The library, we try to keep it really simple. If you have questions about something that I may not have in the catalog, please give me a call. I might have something stored away in a cabinet someplace. When I took over the loan library, there were a lot of items that I wasn't sure what all they were. So feel free to give me a call. I can make suggestions. Deb is amazing if you need questions answered. If you aren't quite sure what you're looking for, we can help you with that. Some of our very best borrowed items are our C pens. Everybody loves those C pens. And we have the Scan Marker Pro. That's a new one. They are, yes, they're super popular. And the Go Talks, those are huge. And we did just recently get the Go Talk Light Touch. And so that's a new popular item. So, I think that you guys have probably heard enough from me. Does anybody have any questions about how it functions, what I have?
Well, Chandra, there have been a few basic questions in the chat, and I've been answering them as we go along, mostly about shipping, etc. I understand, and Sherry says that return shipping can be a barrier. I understand that money is always on the table as a potential barrier. I think we might just need to show them the savings of trialing something versus having to buy it without knowing if it's going to work. But I
Yes.
don't know if any of our teams might have other suggestions for that. I think most loan libraries that I'm aware of do. There is a shipping responsibility by the borrower, and we'll see that in just a moment.
Yes.
One thing I did want to say, Chandra, when somebody calls and they or emails and they know what they want, yes, we do that. And as you mentioned, we can help in guiding you. Chandra is very good at having links to supports and some of the YouTube videos to help you know where to begin with that. One thing that I want to say is if somebody's asking about OGCOM, one of the questions we always ask, or we always recommend is, are you working with a team in a school? Because just having a device is not really enough. We know that there are going to be plenty of people who can take a Go Talk and find ways to make it work with an individual. But if we're talking about using something and developing over time, that does need to have and it really works best with an SLP involved for the development of language and vocabulary. But
yes, if I have a parent that calls me asking for an AAC device, I do always ask those questions. We don't want the kids to have to be learning many different languages and get frustrated and abandon the device. And yes,
And I know that
want to
in
work with the
schools,
team.
sometimes we're working with teams and we don't do a screening point to say that we haven't looked at the IEP to say that this student has an issue in throwing things against the wall. We do try to make sure that we have some protective cases when we send some things out, but we're not in everybody's face and trying to get those things up front like you on an IEP team might. So hopefully the people who are asking have support in the educational environment to help and guide them. But we always stress that being part of and considering the school environment um, for selection is crucial. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. And yes, Chelsea, if you are close enough to hand deliver something to us, by all means do that. Sometimes Chandra and I will travel around the state, and if we know we're coming near you and you have something to return, we're happy to swoop by and see you face to face. Anyway, we've spent enough time sharing with this. We're happy to answer other questions, but I think it's time for Brian to share. Would you agree, Chandra?
Absolutely. Yep, all you, Brian.
The share button right down here. I always forget that last step. And yeah, okay. Good morning, everyone. As we mentioned before, I am Brian Sacre. I am an AT specialist for Access Technologies. We are a tiny little nonprofit. We're on Lancaster Drive in Salem, Oregon. However, the only reason we are here in Salem is because it's a pretty good spot logistically to get into and out of Portland, as well as cover the rest of the state as needed. We, as a nonprofit, we service 2 federal grants, and we have a lead agency, vocational rehabilitation, where we do I spend most of my time actually doing fee-for-service work for voc rehab, which helps support the grants. The first grant that we maintain, and the one that you'll hear the most about today, is the Oregon Statewide Assistive Technology Program, which is part of the AT Act from the 90s. And there's a lot of history there. We used to operate out of 5 different hubs under the grant, and then after a few years, they kind of reduced the funding a little bit, and so we pulled everything into one centralized location. Just happened to be in Salem. We'll go into much more detail about that, and we're also administrators of something called the National Deafblind Equipment Distribution Program, also known as the ICANN Connect program, where individuals experiencing dual sensory loss can receive equipment long-term at no cost to them. Oops. Back over here. Assistive technology, as we've become well aware of, is expensive. Anytime you hear the word specialized or custom built, it's probably going to make you cry a little bit. So assistive technology is often funded. Most folks with children with disabilities, they usually come across it. There are probably a number of charities at first, Dornbeckers and Shriners and other organizations. And then when they get into the school systems, if their disabilities aren't as visible or extreme, that's when they get the IEP and the various diagnoses that help them go through life. So school systems are sometimes the first time that a person runs into funding for assistive technology. There are a number of government programs that will help with funding assistive technology. Here in Oregon, for example, where Medicaid, Medicare might fall off, there's the K plan that picks up a lot of the devices that aren't capable of being federally covered. Private health insurances will pay for assistive technology, but just between us, they tend to drive up the prices, and kind of they're somewhat restrictive in what they will allow an AT specialist to provide. But again, having said that, they will they've gotten better about distributing iPads as opposed to dedicated devices. Rehabilitation and job training programs. Again, I'm mostly working for clients of vocational rehabilitation in my position. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. Employers, under reasonable accommodation, should be able to provide assistive technology to their employees, provided that there's no undue hardship. A lot of private foundations will provide. Here, we often will refer people to the Blanche Fisher Foundation, for example. They'll give a grant of about $800 to apply towards a mobility device to Oregonians. Again, a number of charities and civic organizations also will help with assistive technology. Before I came to this job, I really had no idea that the Lions Club would be so instrumental in helping people acquire technology. We have a homepage. If I can snap over into chat real quick, I have this nifty button right here that, oops, I can just delete an added queue, and in the chat, that's our actual home page right there. That's a screenshot from it from yesterday. If we go there across the top of the home page, about 4 in, there's a resources button, and under resources, there's a page for AT funding sources. It's worth a look. It's a lot of things that hopefully many of you know, but there might be some that you weren't aware of, and there might be some that you are aware of that aren't on there, and we'd encourage you to let us know so we can keep that information as up to date as possible. Everyone in the community kind of helps build our pages. We, under the Oregon Statewide Assistive Technology Program, under the AT Act, there are a certain number of activities that we do to fulfill the grant's purposes. The biggest part being the device lending library. It's about 2,000 items. And we say about 300 apps, but a lot of overlap there. Just like OTAP. People can borrow the devices. OTAP, I heard 45 days. We do 30 days for a $9 cleaning and maintenance fee. And then if the person needs to keep the item for a little bit longer, it's a $20 a month short-term rental, we would call it, just to usually for 2 purposes. Sometimes some of the things that we rent out aren't what you think of when you think of assistive technology. Knee scooters and suitcase ramps and transport chairs. And some people do need them for just 30 days, and some folks, you get a hip surgery, it takes 6 weeks to recover. It's cheaper to rent a scooter for 2 months for $29 than it is to try to pick one up. Those devices move quite a lot, but the actual AT library, a lot of it is just purely for demonstration purposes. We use that phrase to make a more informed decision. So anyone in Oregon and even parts of Southern Washington will call us, describe their difficulty, and we can either go to them or they can come to us and receive a demonstration, about 30 minutes of the person's time. If they have the targeted equipment that they call and they say, I want to see a C pen and an iris pen, we'll show them the C pen and the iris pen. If they call and they say, I need to access a computer, but I don't have a right thumb, then they're kind of asking what in general is out there, then we can give them the whole showroom. We also do a lot of tours of the lab. I can spend hours talking about each device and the people that it helped. On our device loan page, going back to the home page, the device loan page is the third one button across the top. There is access to our library. When we look at an item in the library, we'll see a few key points. One is the availability of the item to borrow or look at it. The other is the rental term. Everything, given a couple of minor exceptions, is $9. But when we had the Segways, for example, those were 50, and certain computer rentals were also 50 a month, especially ones that were loaded down. But for the most part, most people aren't too worried about it. They're mostly worried about that $9 to borrow the item for 30 days so they can try it at home and in school and at work or wherever they go to see if it works for them in the real world. Again, to make that more informed decision. Regarding shipping of these items, so some folks, they'll call and they'll say, like, I know exactly what I need to borrow. But I'm in, I'll pick a town, Hebo. I don't get that way very often. So if I happen to be passing through, we're happy to drop things off at no cost. But as we mentioned before, like returning the item is the responsibility of the borrower. Unless they tell a really good story about how they can't possibly get the item to us, then the priority shifts over to recovering the equipment. And so we'll find a way. We also, under the grant, do public awareness activities. This is one of them. How very meta. For fees, we do a lot of assessments and trainings. If anyone does a Google search for Dragon training, somehow Access Technologies became the top Google result for that. So I'm doing Dragon trainings nationally, actually. I've got a few people back east. A lot of big government entities have like one person that just needs Dragon training. And somehow I've become that guy. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was actually on a naval base teaching Dragon to somebody. It's weird the places Dragon takes me for how much I dislike Dragon. But yeah, those assessments and trainings, they do come at a fee. They're usually to help people get or keep their jobs. I do some assessments and trainings with the ADRC, the Aging Disability Resource Connection, to help people maintain their independence in their home, or sometimes it's just, again, it's a speech communication device or some sort of an alert system. But we find the technology and we find a way. The difference between a demonstration and an assessment is that with an assessment comes a formal report giving actual recommendations as well as a quote for the item and follow-on service for training to make sure the person can actually use the device that they're being provided. Whereas a demonstration, no formal recommendation is made. The person is just trying the device with their own two hands and seeing if it will work for them in the real world. We do a lot of information referrals. Whenever this phone rings, we're not allowed to say, I don't know, which is sometimes painful. The best sometimes we can do is, I don't think that item exists yet. But if somebody calls and they have a question, we will find an answer and we will refer them to the appropriate place to get where they need to go. And that's where groups like the Lions Club, Northwest Access Fund, the ADRC, OTAP, they often come into play for us. We also do a fair bit of state financing programs, and we break it down into AT purchasing, cooperative buying, and device reutilization. Those are all, they seem like they're different things, but to me, they're all just kind of one blended pile. The AT purchasing program, under the grant, we actually take in at cost a lot of durable medical equipment like wheelchairs, walkers, rollators, ramps. They're called hip kits. When a person has a hip replacement surgery, they need a number of tools for the recovery. We bring those items in brand new and we send them out at cost under the grant. This is largely because under Medicaid, Medicare, you get 5 years with a mobility device. And if you're still fairly active, you might wear out a walker in about 3 years. So if you're not going to get one provided for you, the best that the government can do is get you one as close to at cost as possible. And that's why every state AT program is somewhat of a distributor of durable medical equipment. The cooperative buying, that implies that if a person comes in, we have this device called the Pocket Talker. It's an earpiece that just attaches to a thing that fits in your shirt pocket, kind of reduces external noise, it clarifies sound. It's just a step below a hearing aid. For some people, that's their tool, but they're about $230-ish, and a lot of folks in Oregon don't have $230 laying around, and they're not going to use their credit card. So if they tell us a story about how they need this equipment, but money's tight, that's where cooperative buying comes in. We find a way. It could be layaway, it could be rent to own. We are often working on finding that funding source to help cooperatively buy. But yeah, it's a lot of layaway, it's a lot of rent to own. Device reutilization is a nice way of saying that in our marketplace, and here's the front page of the marketplace, you can explore devices to purchase, and you can also list items of your own. We say it's like a Craigslist for durable medical and assistive technology equipment. So if somebody calls in and they say and this actually happened, their mom passed away and they have a relatively new power wheelchair. The fork in the road is about half the time the person says, I know it's worth a lot of money and we'd like to consign it. They always say consign it. We don't consign, but we allow them to list the item on the website at no cost to them. They just send us a picture, a description, their contact information, their asking price. And if they would be so kind to let us know that they've sold the item, we'll even take it down at the end of the sale. So a person can list their old equipment that they've outgrown and try to recover some money to pass it along. And the other half of that fork in the road is sometimes they don't care about the money. They just want this giant chair that reminds them of their relative out of their house or storage shed or storage unit. And we do take equipment in on donation. The person themselves, they get an in-kind charitable donation form, and we clean the item up, and we use the term rehome. We rehome the item for what amounts to the cost of cleaning and recovering the item. So a power chair usually goes out the door for $200-ish. Hoyer lifts are usually about $75, $80 when they come in, and it's a feast or famine situation. For example, out front right now we have a pediatric walker. There's maybe one kid in all of Oregon that will benefit from having this thing, and we're looking for that kid, because if we can find him, he can basically have it. But if they want to pay the asking price, like $25 or whatever, then it goes out the door, and we're able to say that with our grant, we were able to save a family a significant amount of money by having this item available. The assessments that we do, ADA workplace stuff, assistive technology. When I do AT assessments, I do usually have to define myself by what I am not. So if I'm doing a vision exam for somebody who's low vision, I have to remind them that I am not an optometrist. I'm not a medical professional. I'm the tech guy. I'm Q from James Bond. This also comes up with AAC devices. It turns out Oregon has a speech language pathologist association, and phone conversations with them are no fun. So I always make sure that people understand I'm not a speech language pathologist. I'm not an eye doctor. I'm not an audiologist. We're looking at the technology that addresses more of the symptoms. I do a lot of computer access assessments. Most of our work, including this presentation itself, they're all done in the presence of a computer, and a lot of everything is done on computers. So accessing a computer is super important. Ergonomic risk, tons of that, mostly with voc rehab. I've put, I think last year it was about 250-ish desks and chairs in people's home offices and workplaces. And everything that we do, we provide a training for it. It's just the rule. I can't just hand something over and wish a person good luck. So they do have to know how to acquire and use their technologies for me to consider my mission complete. Quick word about the ICANN Connect program. Again, it's for dual sensory loss. The person has to be significantly blind and deaf, like significantly meaning 20/200 in their good eye with corrected vision, and deaf to the point where the audiologist says that they are severe or to a greater extent deaf, as well as under 400% of the federal poverty line. I think in last year, if they made less than $60,200 in income and they're deaf and blind, they qualify for a long-term lending of telecommunications equipment from the FCC. So I do have some children in the program. Ushers usually doesn't hit young, but there are other conditions where a child will be deafblind at a young age. And sometimes they're homeschooled, sometimes they're trying to mainstream, but it really helps to be able to put a large screen computer, an iPad, something that might help them hear their classes more. All of those tools are available. There's no limit as far as, like, once a person's in the program, if I can tie it to telecommunications, I can get it for the person. It is also a lot of Braille displays. Refreshable Braille displays are about $3,000 to $4,000 each. There are a few of them on the market. There's not a lot of places where you can have a basis for comparison. There's basically the folks you're talking to today, us, Community Vision, OTAP. Does OTAP? I can see you on the screen. Do you have Braille displays at OTAP in the library? No. Okay, so there's us, maybe Community Vision.
I think I do have one squirreled away in a box someplace.
And
It may or may not be viable. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say yes until we know that.
Sure. The Oregon Commission for the Blind also has some Braille displays, and interestingly enough, we don't overlap too much. So sometimes people go to the commission, they get sent to us, and we show them what we have, and they're like, "What else do you have?" It's the same with CCTV systems, which are basically they take an image and blow it up for the screen, and it's a giant magnifier. And they're also ridiculously expensive, and it helps to see these things in action before you actually pay for them. But yeah, to receive services, you can call us or email us to set up an appointment. A lot of things a person could just show up to the office, but honestly, like, as soon as we're off of this thing, I'm on my way to Eugene. So there might not be a specialist available, and they might have the equipment that you're looking for with them. So we always say, like, call or email to make sure to set up an appointment. For an assessment, you'd want to call us for a quote. To purchase equipment, you can use the website, not to shop. There's no buying or paying for anything. There's no e-commerce on our website. It is something where we'd still need to call and figure out the logistics the old school way. For any special equipment, so if somebody actually comes for a demonstration, they like, we'll say the C-Pen, and they wish to purchase it, I don't have any inventory for sale of AT items. So we would need to get them a quote. But a lot of times, again, as a nonprofit, I'm not interested in the sale. I'm interested in making sure the person is aware that the technology options exist once they've got that. If they want us to do the purchasing, we can, but really, I always just say, Amazon's your friend in this case. And with ICANN Connect, there's an application process. The ICANN Connect application, I'll blow right through it because it's not terribly important, but the income verification is renewed annually. That's usually a headache for the person. And getting into the program, there's an attestation from a medical professional, and this is where the therapists come in. A lot of you are qualified to make this attestation. The snag usually happens because the attestation has to happen in a very specific way. The federal government doesn't respect me enough to think that I can interpret medical data. And therefore, the medical expert, the therapist, the eye doctor, the general practitioner, even the voc rehab counselor, they can state that the person's vision and hearing are what they are. The hearing is severe hearing loss. The vision loss is macular degeneration with, 2400 in the good eye. And that third piece, this is where it always snags, is that this combined hearing and vision loss makes mainstream technology difficult to use for the person, if not impossible. Once we have that, they're off to the races. They get their stuff. But that disability verification is a sticky part, and a lot of folks are very private, and they're like, I don't want you to see my bank statements or my SSI letter or my tax returns. And I respect and get that, but the federal government needs it. And finally, the things we don't touch are just as important because we get a lot of calls. And while we can't say, I don't know, I can say, let me show you where you can get these things. We don't touch CPAP machines, thankfully. Braces, bandages, and splints. There's so many different kinds, and they're usually custom fit to an individual. We don't do hospital beds. We say it's for real estate purposes, and that's mostly true, but it's also because we're afraid of bed bugs. Hearing aids, we are not audiologists. Wheelchair lifts, I'm not a contractor, so they won't let me put a wheelchair lift or a stair lift in a person's house. Turns out there is a ton of electricity involved, and I'm not an electrician. Vehicle modifications, we tried once and it went horribly, and the lady had to go to the Dodge dealership to get her airbag sensor fixed. And now we don't do that anymore. And colorblind correction glasses, we never will have those. There are 3 different flavors of color blindness in those in chroma glasses. While we'd like to have them laying around, so they'd be considered one of those spike pieces in our library of things that we know do not work for most people. We just have them in the library so a person cannot spend the money to find out themselves. My contact info is right there, but yeah, I'll be sticking around for the Q&A afterwards, and it's community vision time.
Thanks so much, Brian. I know that, as you said, you are Oregon's State Tech Act. Every state has one, and you have been around and supporting that for a long time. Every state does their deliverables, their programs just a little bit different. And I know that there is a push, and a lot of it has been about voc rehab and post-secondary. But across the country, the state tech acts are having greater focus and an initiative to move more into the schools. So I'm thrilled, Brian, that you are able to be here to spread your knowledge and information and let folks know what you do.
This is correct. It's 7th grade and above will be getting voc rehab counselors shortly.
More counselors out there. That's crucial. So I know that Carrie and Noel have a lot to share with us too. So we're going to turn it over to them. Make sure they have time to do that. Carrie, Noel, thank you so much for always stepping up and being a partner with us.
Yay. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Brian. Okay, Going to jump into Community Vision's loan closet. If you're not familiar with Community Vision, we are in Southeast Portland. We're a disability nonprofit with a lot of different services. And today we have our AT Lab team here. So we'll each introduce ourselves real quick. I'm Carrie Luce. I am an occupational therapist. I'm also a certified assistive technology professional, and I'm the director of the AT Lab, which you will learn more about in a moment. So Noelle, if you want to unmute and introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Noelle Berkey. I'm an SLP, speech language pathologist, and also the assistant director of the AT Lab.
And then Cynthia.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Castañeda, and I am a speech language pathology assistant and the accessibility specialist at the AT Lab.
Great. So if you call, you're going to talk to one of us. So many of you are familiar with the AT Lab. We opened in 2018. We're in Southeast Portland. We are in one of the first universally designed buildings in Portland. So if you're in the area, give us a call, come for a tour. It's a really neat building. The lab is an education resource center. We're open to the public. Some folks think we're just for Community Vision and the people that Community Vision supports, but anyone can come and see us. Anyone across the state can give us a call or email. We don't have state funding. We don't have any government funding. So we are primarily funded through grants and donations. People often ask about our capacity. We are much smaller than the state AT Tech Center, ATI. So we serve about 1,000 people a year, much smaller, and tend to work with folks with really complex needs, but really can serve anyone. And if we can't, we'll find them somewhere else they can go. So if you haven't been to our website, here's a QR code. Here you can find out all about our services. I'm going to go over real quick about our services and what we do, and then we'll learn more about our loan closet. So we do have open lab hours every Thursday afternoon from 12 to 5 p.m. So again, if you're in the Portland area, drop in any Thursday afternoon. And if that doesn't work for you, give us a call. We'll find another time for you to come explore some technology, ask questions, get a tour, get resources, have coffee with us, come hang out. You'll hear about the loan closet in a moment. We do AT consultations, which are paid. Open Lab is free. Loan Closet is free. Consultations are paid. We do offer free 20-minute phone calls, though. So again, we get calls from all over the state, questions. Sometimes it's even quick things. You know, someone might need some help with accessibility settings on their device, or they just don't know where to start. Or they might have a very specific question about OGCOM, and we will do our best to give some direction. Usually, as Deb mentioned, it starts with, hey, who's your SLP? We do offer lots of trainings. That is really one of our largest purposes is to build capacity in the state. So we do a lot of train the trainer, training with therapists, job coaches, parents, really anyone that's interested. We set up customized trainings. And we do offer AT funding support. So we are already an administrator of the ZTOSH fund. So it's on our website. If you go to our AT funding page, there's a link to our ZTOSH application, which is for equipment, for educational equipment for students across Oregon who are from low-income families. So ZTOSH is administered by OHSU, UCP, which is United Cerebral Palsy, and Community Vision. And we do lots of community projects. We've worked with the city of Portland, we've worked with Metro, we've worked with Nike, really folks around the state who are interested in increasing accessibility, a lot around universal design. So these projects fund a lot of our work. And we also have social groups. So we have an AAC social group once a month that Noelle runs. And we've also recently added an adaptive gaming social group. So check out our website, give us a call if you have folks that would like to join a social group. So we have a short, about 5-minute video on the lab. So we'll show that now. I'm sorry, on the loan closet. Oh, yes. And if for some reason when the video plays, if your internet isn't great, there is a link. Noelle's going to drop it in the chat to, as you can see at the top, our Loan Closet page. So this video is on our Loan Closet page. So if it's acting weird for you, you can click on that link and watch it yourself or watch it later.
Welcome to the Loan Closet at Community Vision's Assistive Technology Lab. Here, you'll find a wide variety of assistive technology, or AT for short, that you can borrow and try out. Best of all, it's completely free to use. You can borrow items for up to 2 weeks at no cost, thanks to our generous donors, including the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation and the Oregon Community Foundation. Let's hear some frequently asked questions about our loan closet.
What kinds of items are available to borrow?
We offer a range of assistive technology, including tablets, accessible keyboards and mice, adaptive switches and interfaces, communication devices, mounting equipment, and more.
Who can use the loan closet?
The Loan Closet is open to everyone. It's a valuable resource for people with disabilities, their families, caregivers, and providers like teachers, job coaches, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and speech-language pathologists. Let's take a look at how the Loan Closet is making a difference in the community. Meet Kara, a local speech-language pathologist. Kara often borrows equipment from our Loan Closet to use with her home health patients. Having access to this technology allows her patients to test out items that may help them become more independent in their daily lives. Now, meet Janelle. Janelle visited the AT lab to explore different adaptive keyboards and mice. She borrowed a keyboard and a touchscreen monitor to try at home. Thanks to the AT lab team, Janelle and her family were able to find funding to purchase the items that worked best for her. Finally, meet Rose. Rose came to the AT lab for a consultation about communication devices. While she was here, she also toured our smart home demonstration room and decided to borrow a smart speaker from the Loan Closet.
Where do I pick up my loan items?
Loan items can be picked up and dropped off at Community Vision in Southeast Portland on Thursday afternoons. When you arrive, a staff member will greet you and show you how to set up the technology. We even have easy-to-follow tip sheets for some items. If Thursdays don't work for you, let us know and we'll do our best to find another day.
How do I request items from the loan closet?
It's simple. Just visit our website at cv-atlab.org and go to our Loan Closet page. Fill out the form to let us know what items you're interested in, and we'll take care of the rest. The forms can be filled out by the person assuming responsibility and liability for the items. It can be filled out in advance or in person when you arrive.
Do you have durable medical equipment, like wheelchairs, scooters, and bath chairs?
No, we do not have these types of durable medical equipment. However, we can connect you to other resources like the Caring Closet in Vancouver, Washington, or Access Technologies, Inc. in Salem, Oregon. We do, however, offer 2 unique pieces of mobility equipment, the PerMobile Explorer Mini and the Extreme Modus. The Explorer Mini is a small-powered mobility device designed for young children 1 to 3 years old who are just learning to move around their environment. The Extreme Modus all-terrain wheelchair is an outdoor wheelchair that allows people to access hard-to-reach places, such as trails, sand, snow, and uneven terrain.
Do you ship items?
Unfortunately, we don't ship items. All loan items must be picked up in person at the AT lab. If needed, you may ship the item back at your own expense, but you will be liable if the item is lost or damaged in the mail.
What if I want to borrow something that you don't have?
If we don't have the item you're looking for, we can refer you to other resources such as Access Technologies, Inc. or the Oregon Technology Access Program, which is the state school-based tech center. You may also request that we add an item to our purchase wish list. If we get several requests for an item, we may be able to purchase it through a grant or donation. Please email or call us with your requests.
What other resources and services does the AT Lab offer?
In addition to the loan closet, the AT Lab offers consultations, funding assistance for educational equipment through the ZTOSH Fund, workshops, trainings, and weekly open hours. We are open to the public every Thursday afternoon from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Anyone can stop in to explore, ask general questions about AT, and learn about community resources. Please visit our website to learn more about how the AT Lab can support people with disabilities, their families, and the people who work with them. Feel free to call us for more information. Additional resources are listed in the video description.
Okie doke.
That was a great video.
Okay, so we've got a couple more slides. So are there questions in the chat? I didn't see.
I've been making comments.
Great. Thank you.
I directed people to the recording that you did for us for our Aim Across the Lifespan series, and let them know you're going to be talking about speech-generated device funding coming up in February for Echo Voices.
Yes, yes. Okay, so the loan closet has, when you go to request an item, it just lists items kind of like somewhat generically, because a lot of folks don't know which switch they want or which joystick. But if you would like to see a detailed list, when you go to the inquiry form, you can see here it says, click this link for a detailed list of items, and then you can get a PDF to download with all of our items. We have about 70 items in our loan closet, variety of things, very similar in some ways to ATI and OTAP. There's some crossover. We do have some unique pieces of equipment, but you can see the actual items, and we do try to keep that up to date. And there's our contact info. So give us a call if you have questions. And I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Thanks so much for sharing, all of you. As are the therapists, the folks who are on with us, as you consider your needs and the supports that you have, I hear you when you say shipping might be an issue, but I also know you're very creative in finding ways to circumvent the barriers. So if you need to brainstorm, I think again, I feel that the Loan Library has such a unique role to fill, and some of our districts have pretty robust and some do not. So that's why we're here, to help fill in those spaces. I'm so appreciative. I learned from each of you today. We've been partners in working for a long time, but every time I hear you talk, there's new information that pops out. Anyone who has a question, please feel free to type in the chat box, raise your hand, unmute yourself.
I would like to remind everyone that there are handouts from each of us today. I have put in there sorry, my dogs are going crazy. I've put in there an OTAP and RSOI resources sheet that has our YouTube channel, the Echo Ties and Echo Voices archives, as well as some other helpful links that are not directly related to us, like the SET assessment, things like that. All of the slides from today's presentations are in there, as well as some flyers and other information.
And feel free to share with your IEP team members. Awareness of what is out there is huge. It's always interesting to know how long should I wait. We'll wait forever for questions. As you're formulating those, please let us know. But what I wanted to do was kind of throw out a profile, and just considering the resources from today, throw out a profile of someone who could be a student, could be an early learner, could be someone who's getting ready to graduate or has already done so. But let's think of, we have someone who's new to you, They don't have a big old file in front of them. You are kind of their first line. And this student, let's say as their profile, they have CP, they have fine motor difficulties, speech is difficult, getting around, mobility, they are in a wheelchair. And so, what are some of the first things that pop into your mind as what you would like to try? Yes, you may have all of these things in your loan library, but is there anything that jumps out at you as where you can begin, where you should be beginning? Kelly, I love what you just said because that is key. Whether we're talking about OGCOM or we're talking about access to a computer, beginning, of course, with OGCOM, we know how important communication is to develop early, but a consistent access point. So you heard all of us say we have switches, and maybe you saw that we have a complete assessment kit. I think we're kind of revamping it, making sure it's got good things in there, but finding out where does the student have the most control of what part of their body? And as we saw, if it's the eyes, if that's where my most consistent control is, let's start experimenting and finding out a good place to start. Sometimes it's going to be starting with the cause and effect, helping them to see that the switch they can interact with their world. And bringing in literacy pieces, all of that. You're part of the teams that do that. Multiple modes of communication, says Lori, starting with low tech so they can start to access it. Y'all are not new to this.
We do have a question in here from Karen.
Oh, did I miss it? Oh, okay.
Well, it came in really quickly.
Okay. So
Yeah,
she says, is there a fund that each ESD is given for equipment each biennium? I would say that there almost has to be funding across all of the ESDs. The equipment really is to come through the ESD. That's primarily what they provide in support to the school districts is equipment. They may be on consult for other things, but the equipment piece is they should have that. Yes, it's going to be different across all of the districts because it's about funding. And so each district may get different funding because of the students they serve and their child counts, et cetera. So they should have funding for that. You'll need to check with them to see what the specifics are there. And there should be loan libraries for equipment as well, but it is all district based. District and ESD, sorry. Yes, that was your question, ESD. There should be funding there